Donald Trump Jr. thinks that the U.S. military, is filled with wokeists. Take a look.
It was the hearings afterwards where our generals, the great woke leaders of our U.S. military that spent 6 million man-hours training our troops about wokeness. Like, not fighting, not killing bad guys. They wanted to learn about white rage, a term that none of us had ever heard of prior to him testifying it, right? Maybe they should focus on China, but when I watch our military leadership, who's gone the way of the left, sit there before the American people and said, well, as it pertains to Afghanistan, we could not have seen this coming.
Now, that was at CPAC over the weekend, and so last weekend. And look, you could see the signs emblazoned everywhere. Not woke, we're awake, but not woke. And then we got the woke military, and we got the they-them tanks. Completely and utterly unhinged, right? But this has been a talking point that the right has been using quite a bit. Again, here's Ted Cruz tweeting about it. He says, and this is, by the way, a comparison about Russian military recruitment commercials versus U.S. military recruitment commercials. So he says, perhaps a woke, emasculated military is not the best idea. The woke. So we got the woke military. We got the they, them armies. Pronouns. What are you going to do? You're going to shoot them with pronouns? That's what's going on here. No, this is ridiculous. But look, understand that this is one of many different examples. What you have here is this narrative, this weirdo culture war narrative that surrounds the military. Now, again, it's both hilarious and counterfactual. At the same time, by the way, these same people were praising the Russian military for being anti-woke. A lot of right-wingers, they're like, oh, look at how anti-woke Putin is. That's why we think it's great for Russia to invade Ukraine. We stand with the Russians. In fact, there's a Twitter hashtag earlier that says, I stand with Putin, I stand with Russia. I mean, just absolute weirdo stuff. But it's all this weird right-wing, narrative of we don't like wokeism, whatever that is. What does that mean? I don't know. Because there's no such thing as a woke military. The whole point of the military, I don't know if you know this, or I don't know if they know this, I should say, if right-wingers, if you're watching, the whole point of the military is to kill people. That's about as anti-woke as you can get. I'm just saying, you can't get less woke than killing other people. Yeah, but okay, all right. So now, that said, why is he going off in this weirdo woke tangent? Well, it turns out, let's get into the facts, okay? So he talked about the 6 million man-hours, or near 6 million man-hours of wokish training. Oh, we got wokish training here. That actually comes from a letter sent by Army General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to Senator James Inhofe. Now, James Inhofe, of course, is saying that the military is going to the left. We got left-wing cancel culture. We got a culture experiment of the leftisms. All right, well, now Inhofe, who is the top-ranking Republican on the Senate Armed Services Committee. I mean, that right there, it blows my mind. Remember, this is Senator Snowball, right? Literally went outside, took a snowball, brought it into the Senate chambers, and was like, this is why global warming doesn't exist, where it's not real. Oh, okay then. Now, Inhofe asked Milley how much time the military spent on rooting out extremists, as well as a climate change plan and a new training program on diversity and inclusion. Oh no! Diversity and inclusion, how terrible. How awful. Oh no. Now, most of that time was actually, that's about nearly 5.4 million hours was spent on a stand down ordered after the January 6th insurrection. That involved about nearly 2.5 million service members, which breaks down to a total of 2 hours per person in training. That's it. Now, Milley said that that was comparable to all other periodic training requirements. Now that climate change plan actually took up about 1,059 hours. Again, not very long. Diversity training, 529,711 hours, bringing the total man hours up to about 5.9 million. So again, you spread that across 2.5 million soldiers, and well, you know, it adds up to not being very long. So now what's interesting is climate change got the least amount of time. No, well, okay, but climate change is an existential threat. And understand why. And even the military, again, understands this. The Pentagon understands this, because what's going to happen when there is mass climate change is you're going to have migration due to places that can no longer grow food, or places that are unable to sustain human life due to the extreme temperatures. We had seen extreme temperatures in the Australian interior. You had seen extreme temperatures in places in sub-Saharan Africa. And so you have places there that are already hot that are going to get worse. They're going to get hotter. And again, you have places that are barely able to grow food now that will be unable to grow food. So what's going to happen? And by the way, there are islands as a result of sea level rise because of the Arctic melting, all that ice melting and going into the ocean. Well, some of these islands are going to lose their land as well. The United States will lose coastline, and so pushing people back. What you're going to have is a lot of migration. A lot. And so that will create conflicts over land and resources. When you look at that, of course the military would be concerned about that. Yes, that's important. And these conditions will create wars, possibly civil wars. Again, lots and lots of human suffering and death. I know people laughed at Bernie Sanders when they said, oh, Syria, right? Syria was partly created by conditions that were exacerbated by climate change. But it's actually true. It's actually true. So now that's going to be a problem. So obviously the military has to be prepared to deal with this, right? So now, as for diversity, look, we're a more diverse country. We're getting more diverse, right? Does it not make sense from a recruitment perspective? When you're looking at it from you're a military recruiter, right? And you want to beef up those numbers to do whatever, war in the Middle East that you want to do. And I'm not saying that I agree with this, right? I'm just saying that from their perspective, right? Wouldn't it make sense to try to recruit different diverse groups of people into the military? Especially when we, at this moment, have a all-volunteer military. Yes, that would make sense. That would make sense. That's why they're going with these commercials. And again, I made fun of the woke, so-called woke army recruitment commercials because they were cringy. And not only that, because the military, again, is training you to literally go out and murder people, which I don't think is the direction that we need to go. I actually think that we should cut the military budget. Yes, and stop, doing the imperialisms. We need to stop going to war so much, or at all if possible, all that stuff. But to say that the military has gone woke and now is operating out of a leftist social agenda, that's fucking absurd. Absolutely ridiculous. No, if it were a leftist social agenda, we would have cut the military by like 2/3 and then funded social programs with it. I'd get behind that. But now, let me go to Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby, who, by the way, pushed back against Inhofe, saying this, quote, I would say, and this is reflected in the material, stand down was principally designed to reinforce for everyone the very meaning of the oath they take to the Constitution, and what that oath portends for the behavior expected of us, the dignity and respect we owe each other, and the greater loyalty we owe to America's system of government. Now, again, the reason that he's saying that and talking about the oath, right, to the Constitution, is that, I mean, this is right after January 6th. So the reason that they did the stand down is because that training, the stand down training, was because they were concerned about military members joining in the Trump insurrection. And so, yes, that extremism training that made up the bulk of the requirements was a direct response to January 6th. And so, no, this is not like, oh, the leftist social agenda with the they, them tanks and the woke army. No. These, look, whatever the hell the right-wingers and Don Jr. are talking about, it's just complete and utter absurdity and nonsense.